A sculptured steel archway. The sculptured steel archway was twisted neatly into the words, "Welcome to safety." As we passed the gate, the commander who had succeeded at dissolving my American upbringing, in regard to my mythological America, he sat in the stairwell of the bus and said, "Drive 5 miles per hour. I did, and as I did so, he told me quietly, "You get what this place is, right? The family of the next president, not the current president, Clinton, so the next would be Bush Jr., has built these places before in Europe. Please be careful and don't forget this. Promise me, no matter how bad it gets out there, survive out there. Never come to one of these places. Many will come for help, but there won't be any. These are giant mortuaries. Okay? I promised." About an hour later, the lead driver got a call to send me and one other driver home. A reservist I had never seen came and gave me a note. "We are shipping out from here. And all thank you for the peace we got riding your bus. Please don't keep the note. Just the memories and the faith." I threw the note away and proceeded to drive home. In late July of 1998, I was assigned to pick up 2 medic units, while another driver was assigned to pick up a demolitions group. Each unit group was from a different National Guard's barrack, but their destinations were the same. We drove them to an international non-military airport. They were dressed in their uniforms. Their gear was out and open. They flew a United Airlines flight. They met their commanders at the airport and openly discussed whether or not this trip was just an exercise or the real deal. This time, they were told it was the real deal. As they unloaded the bus, they inventoried their supplies and equipment. The list they read from seemed lengthy. They had a lot of medical equipment. The inventory seemed to indicate that somebody, someplace, actually a lot of bodies were going to be needing intense medical care. The team's medical-related reservists on my bus, and the demolitions weapons experts on the other bus, were headed to the African nation of Nairobi, Tanzania, to be specific. So imagine my shocking surprise when exactly 8 days later, I saw them on my television, on the ABC Nightly News with Peter Jennings, taking care of the wounded. In the aftermath of the destruction of the U.S. embassies in Africa, I put them on a plane for that area of the world 8 days prior to the attack on the embassy. The unit of medics I had transported departed well ahead of the event and were in place before the detonators were fired. In fact, the group of reservists my colleague had transported had the detonators in a large brief-like case that was well marked on the outside. As I watched the news and read of the blast, I saw the members of both groups on the news. The other driver told me to shut up and never tell anybody. I have remained silent too long. When I was sent to pick them up, they came back with small knapsacks just like kids use for school. They were all dressed in clean street clothes like anybody traveling. I was told that there will be no return equipment, so only one bus, mine, went to transport them home. I had seen them use their equipment on television. Each one got picked up by a family member, so I was not needed after all. Here is an interesting thing. Visit Wikipedia and look for U.S. Embassy, Africa. There is a page about the attacks on that embassy. The information given specifically states that this particular attack in 1998 outed the existence of Al-Qaeda and bin Laden to the American people, thus exposing the American people to the idea of terrorism against America for the first time. According to Wikipedia's calculations, terrorism was therefore introduced to us under the Clinton administration. Side note: you people thinking of voting for Hillary better think about this long and hard. I am telling you that I transported the medical units 2 weeks before the blasts, and watched the demolitions experts and weapons join them on the same flight. Do you understand? Private school buses, like ours, don't keep records of such activity, which is why we were used instead of the military's own transport. For me, this is much evidence on the side that the dog is wagged. I have tried many times to find a place to post this information. The camps are real. Did you hear me? The camps are real. The destruction of the U.S. Embassy in Africa was foreknown and planned. The presidency of George Bush Jr. was known 6 years earlier. I write this to say, if you think for 1 second that there is no plan, you are wrong. No one wakes up one morning and gets elected president, except Jimmy Carter. Will they let Ron Paul? I don't think so. Foremost, this is all well planned. This is where we find ourselves. Fellow Americans, we are at their end game. They have a tremendous head start. I read blog after blog of well-meaning protesters who should never surrender, but also not be caught by surprise. The actions of the Pelosi Congress during the last 2 weeks of May are proof, evidence, writing on the wall, that we may well be too late to do anything but ride this out. The question is, what does that mean? If the Pelosi Congress could not stop the funding of the war, then they cannot stop the declaration of dictatorship signed by the dictator, George Walker Bush, this week. Under the specifications of martial law, all elections are suspended. The Congress is suspended. Protests of every kind are illegal. Martial law is suspended only upon a direct order of the Commander-in-Chief, and the suspended Congress is not restored to power until the calendar date of the next election. Maybe that is why the Pelosi Congress is not really worried, because they get an extended vacation and still get their jobs back later. For a while at least. You can't change dire plans. It has been planned, and is being done. The only recourse of the law left to us is for our militia, National Guard, to be invoked by each state's governor, to arrest the Constitution's violators, and call for special elections to restore power. Do you hear me? Do you understand what I am telling you? So that is why our National Guard has been decimated at this time. It leaves Americans stripped of any chance of refusing to become a dictatorship. How can anybody think there is no plan? It cannot be an accident that the branch of military established for the protection of Americans at home is gone, depleted, nearly destroyed, at a time when we may need them most. This is our one small window. If the world attacks us, then that would suspend elections. We could end up with George W. Bush for an indefinite period of time. The terrified followers of George W. Bush will run to these places of safety. Either they will die there, or those who don't will be branded as uncompliant and un-American. It is so real and so close. We the people must arise now and invoke the power of our Constitution and Bill of Rights. We must resurrect the intentions of our constitutional writers, who meant that the USA should never reach this level of demise under the tyranny of a ruler who despises the Constitution itself. If you are not awake, wake up now. Now may be our last chance to save our country from a dictatorship. Pass this on to everyone you know. You have been warned. It is now up to we the people to take back our nation. Washington, D.C., July 4, 2007. Be there.